I request Dr. Prabhu Pingali, as I mentioned, is a world-ranked agriculture economist, alumni of the Hyderabad Public School, BITS Pilani, later North Carolina University in the US, obtained PhD from there, later started a career in the World Bank, now currently one of the topmost university in the world, that is Cornell University, as a founding director of the Tata Cornell Institute of Agriculture and Nutrition. His outstanding academic excellence in the field of agriculture economics, agriculture development, and policy analysis helped in the developing countries' smallholder farmer productivity. With these few words, I request Professor Prabhu to deliver his chief guest address to this combined convocation.
Honorable Vice Chancellor Aldas Janaya, Academic Council, the Deans of the University, members of the Management Board, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and a great delight for me to be here today and to participate in this very important set of convocations that are taking place. 56th, 57th, and 58th convocations of the university. It's also a great privilege for me to be invited by the Vice Chancellor. I have known the Vice Chancellor for 40 years now. I knew him when he was a young economist at the Directorate of Rice Research right here in Hyderabad. And I've seen his career over this period. And I'd like to first congratulate him for the enormous success that he has had. I'm also delighted to be here as a convocation speaker because I'm also from Hyderabad. I grew up in Hyderabad. I studied in Hyderabad Public School. So to me, it's a big honor to be recognized by a premier university in this city. So I take this as a personal honor and a privilege. I'm not used to giving these big speeches in front of thousands of people. So I'll try to keep it short, and you've got my full speech in front of you. I'm not going to read it, but I'll give you a quick summary. When I look in front of me, I see that most of the audience here are young students, young graduates, and many of you are living at a time when India is growing very rapidly. India is becoming a major global player. It's considered among the top 5 economies in the world. And many of you are proud of this success. But many of you may not know that in order for India to be on the path towards rapid growth, India had to start with agriculture. Agriculture productivity, agriculture growth is the backbone on which India's success depends. And it's because of that rapid growth in agriculture productivity that we've seen the tremendous changes that India has been through in the last 75 years or so. And universities such as this, the ICAR centers, the CGIAR system, centers like ICRISAT, which is right here in Hyderabad, all of them contributed to this massive growth in agriculture productivity that took place through the Green Revolution. And let me talk through some of the big changes that we've seen in food and agriculture in India over the past 70 years. Now, let me start in the 1960s. In the 1960s, India was highly deficit in food. Hunger was very prevalent. Starvation was very prevalent. Famines were common. And at that time, there was a sense that India would never be able to feed itself. There was a very famous book called The Population Bomb, which was written by Paul Ehrlich. And in that book, Paul Ehrlich said, we need to find ways in which we sacrifice Asia so that the rest of the world can survive. It was seen that there was no hope for Asia and there was no hope for India. And that was in 1967. By 1974, India became self-sufficient in food. And today, India is one of the largest agriculture product exporting country in the world. Who would have thought that we would make this tremendous change? And it happened because of increased production of rice, increased production of wheat that came from small farms around this country. And that was called the Green Revolution. And the Green Revolution made hunger extremely reduced in this country. The Green Revolution made famines history and eradicated the word famine from our daily language. So that's been a big, big contribution that agriculture science and agriculture universities have made. We still have a lot of challenges. We still have a lot of challenges in malnutrition. We have a lot of challenges in environmental degradation, managing climate change, reducing rural poverty, etc. And again, one of the ways in which we address these challenges is through agriculture. And we need to keep our focus on agriculture research and enhancing agriculture productivity sustainably if we want to meet these challenges. So I think that's really an important part of what we need to think about as we look to the future. And we look to the future of our careers. Now, India is seeing some dramatic changes today. India is seeing some dramatic changes in diets. We've gone from a country that was very food insecure and we didn't have enough to eat to a country that's got an abundance of rice and wheat. And as incomes are rising, the demand for vegetables, for fruit, for livestock products, etc., is rising very rapidly. But we're not able to keep up with the demand. We're not able to keep up with the demand for this diversity of food because much of our focus has been on staple grains. And therefore, we're seeing this big demand for diversity of food, but the supply is not catching up or keeping up with this demand. The other thing we see is today there's a much greater emphasis on convenience food, on processed foods. And so most supermarkets provide you very wide variety of processed foods, but very little fresh food. So if you go into a supermarket, you will buy oils, you'll buy dals, you'll buy flour, but you rarely buy tomatoes in a supermarket. If you want tomatoes, if you want eggplant, you still go down to the street carts to buy them. And one of the reasons for that is we've not created that value chain, that supply chain from farmers to the supermarket chains. And so farmers still tend to deal with traditional markets, and therefore you see this disconnect coming up between the supermarkets and the types of food that Indian farmers, small farmers are producing. And because of easy access to convenience food, easy access to high energy food, high calorie food, high sugar dense foods, etc., we are now in a situation where India is going from a period of undernourishment, a period of not having enough calories to eat, to having too much calories. And so we are going from a situation of underweight to overweight and obesity and the rise in non-communicable diseases such as cardiovascular problems, diabetes, um, all kinds of heart diseases, blood pressures, etc. And many of these diseases are related to the type of food we're eating and not having enough access to healthy foods, nutritious foods, is a primary cause for these changes in diseases that we're beginning to see in this country. Another big change that's happened to us in the last several decades is that we have become a much more globalized society. A globalized society where we keep traveling between borders very easily. So I come frequently to India. Many of my relatives come frequently to the US. Most of us have families in different parts of the world. And as a result of this, our lifestyles are also becoming more homogenized, more westernized. And with that, we're also seeing a much stronger Western influence in our diets. And that then brings in many of the big Western fast food groups into this country. So we see McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, etc., which then promote a much more high energy, high protein, high sugar, high salt content diets that we're beginning to see. When I was growing up in Hyderabad in the 60s, there was no Pizza Hut around. We didn't know what a pizza was. We didn't know what a burger was. But then we've come today to a point where you don't have to walk more than a few meters, half a mile or so, in order to find a fast food enterprise. And that has changed our culture a lot. Another thing that's changing us a lot is digital technologies. Since COVID, we've seen rapid growth in the use of smartphones to access food, to access prepared food through apps such as Uber Eats, Swiggy, etc., and to access groceries that come straight to our homes. So these digital technologies have really also created a much bigger change in the way we consume food. And so the question now is, are these digital technologies going to help us eat better, or are they going to continue to create this problem of high levels of high calorie foods and therefore high levels of non-communicable diseases? So that's a challenge I think we need to be thinking about. So as someone who thinks about food and agriculture issues, I always say, so what can we do about this? What's the future? How can we turn this system around? And to me, as we look at India today, we are facing the traditional problems of food insecurity, problems of malnutrition because we don't have the right types of food, fresh vegetables, etc., which gives you vitamins, iron, etc., which is important for your health. And at the same time, we are seeing rising obesity and overweight in this population and rising non-communicable diseases. So we have this triple burden of nutrition going on in this country. Very high levels of undernutrition and very high levels of overweight and overnutrition. And somehow we need to figure out a way to solve both of these problems. And in my view, the answer to both is the same. The answer to both is better access, better supply, better affordability of fresh food, and bringing the prices of fresh food down at the market level. How do we do that? Well, one of the first things that needs to be done is government policy needs to change. Today, government policy is still focused on rice and wheat, increasing the pile of rice and wheat. Government policy is not as much focused on increasing the supply of tomatoes or supply of cauliflower or potatoes or supply of dairy products, etc. So we need to have a way in which government policy plays a much more active role in promoting increased supply of fresh food. And then look at ways in which you can connect small farms to these urban food markets and urban supermarkets. It's only by doing that you're able to bring fresh food into the supermarket system. But by doing that, you're also able to increase incomes of small farmers, increase their capacity to grow out of poverty. So this new approach of promoting fresh food production in small farms is a new growth opportunity for the rural poor in India, especially the rural poor living in more marginal areas in Telangana, marginal areas in central India, eastern India, etc. I think that's really an important way to think about it. We also need to invest a lot in farmer capacity to switch from growing rice to growing high value crops such as vegetables. This is not easy. Farmers need to learn new skills. Farmers need to interact with the market more. Farmers need to understand price signals better. And to do that, they need a lot of new skills. And this is where I think the extension systems can play a big role. Extension systems in universities like this can play a major role, and smartphone technologies can be a big part of that. And I think that's a way in which we can think about the future. And also, we need to get a lot more interministerial coordination. Right now, the agriculture ministry has its policies, the health ministry has its policies, the child welfare ministry has its policies. But we need one set of policies that's consistent across these ministries in order to address the problem both of undernourishment and overnourishment. And I think that's where this coordination has to come together, is a very important way in which we can address the rising levels of non-communicable diseases and reduce that public health burden that we see. Finally, I'd like to say that there's no one solution for India. India is such a large country with such diversity among the population, diversity of agroclimates, etc. So we need to think about solutions that fit particular locations. We cannot say that, low input agriculture is for everyone, or organic farming is for everyone, or green revolution type technologies for everyone. All of these play a role, but we need to be very clear that they play particular roles in particular environments, and farmers need to choose. Farmers are best judges of what they need, and they can choose what they need. So, Honorable Vice Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. And let me congratulate all the graduates and all the honorees for their well-deserved degrees that they're getting today. And thank you very much.
Professor Pingali has authored and edited several influential books and published hundreds of peer-reviewed articles in leading international journals. His research seamlessly bridges rigorous academic inquiry with actionable policy insights, and his outstanding contributions have earned him wide national and international recognition, firmly establishing him as one of the foremost authorities in agricultural economics and development. On the occasion of the 56th, 57th, and 58th combined convocation held on 9th February 2026, Professor Jaishankar Telangana Agricultural University proudly confers upon Professor Prabhu L. Pingali the degree of Doctor of Science honorary in recognition of his significant and impactful contributions to agricultural development and sustainable growth in developing countries.